Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Grad School Buddy, a show that gives simple answers to questions about grad school. I'm your host, Ebele Chukwumoyi, a development economist and impact storyteller who has a master's from Georgetown University and a bachelor's from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. We hope this show helps you make better grad school decisions. Let's dive right in. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Grad School Buddy. Today I am chilling with Layo, who is freshly minted from Duke. He's giving you for the peace symbol, but you can't see him, so I have to confirm that on your behalf. So one thing that's really important that I want us to kind of get from Layo's story is the fact that he had a really cool career in banking before he came here. Mm-hmm. And something else is that he is one of the crazy people I know who took a loan to go to business school. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, I think he's one of the lucky people who got jobs even before they graduated. So it's like the transition for you. To the outsider, it might seem very smooth, but obviously we know that there were things like you had to do. Mm-hmm. There were hurdles you had to pass to get to where you are. Yep. And so this is kind of for that person who is, they're already working either as a banker. I know working as a banker in Lagos is one of the craziest things you can do. Yep. So we kind of want to understand how you were able to combine all of that, applying for graduate school, like keeping up with the things that you really wanted, and also like maintaining that mental health balance. So I'm just going to read his bio. Layo is a very easygoing guy. I'm like, Layo, give me your bio, and he gave me 3 bullet points. So Layo has a background in finance, specifically investment banking. He recently graduated from Duke Fuqua School of Business, and he is going to work in energy. So when I say that he gave me 3 bullet points, I'm sure you thought I was joking. But that's what he came with. So I guess the rest of the tea we have to find out in the podcast. Okay, yes. So Layo, I know I've met you before, but the listeners, this is their first time getting to know you. So do you mind telling us something about you? It doesn't have to be something formal or serious. Just like tell us about Layo, your journey, how you stumbled on our mic today.
Long journey. Thank you for having me, by the way. Guys, in case you can tell, I apologize. In case you can tell that I'm not an expert at this.
I don't think anybody is.
But yeah, journey, pretty simple. Background in computer science, actually. I probably left that.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, okay. But I couldn't really see. Unfortunately, at the time, tech bros weren't a thing in Lagos, so I couldn't see where the money was coming. And then somehow along the line, I found finance. I had a cousin who used to work at PwC, who's kind of my mentor now. And I used to hear him talk about his work, finance stuff, economy, and sounded fancy. Met some dude doing talent mine in Lagos. I don't know if you heard of talent mine.
I actually haven't.
It's it was so I think it was owned by people that were bankers. I'm not sure, but they would gather undergrads, recent graduates, give them some finance training, and help them secure internships on Wall Street.
Is that still available?
I think so. I'm not sure. Okay. I know there's another one called EduBridge, something similar, but I don't think I don't know if they work on internships right now, but they just give you basic finance training if you're trying to get an internship or a job in Wall Street. It's almost like a school that's just focused on finance. But yeah, so I found this guy that was trying to do that, so telling me about investment banking, started looking it up, reading about it, watching YouTube videos, started watching Bloomberg, and that's how finance took me away.
Oh my god, that's so cool. So, okay. So first of all, I didn't even know that you had a computer science background. Yeah. So when you decided that you were going to switch, like, what was that for you, those first few jobs that you applied for, especially because you actually didn't have any, you didn't have any track record, you didn't have any skills. How were you able to prove yourself?
So I think at that time it was pretty popular for people who don't have finance background to get into finance. It was a thing. I think it's always been a thing, really, because at the end of the day, everything you need, you can learn on the job. You just need to be educated, and be able to be taught, basically. And I think banks even used to hire engineers a lot. In trying to answer this question, I remember I realized that for myself back then, that the CEO of AfriInvest, I think, has an engineering background as well. And a couple of other finance people, I think it was him, or maybe he's DMD.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always been a thing. So it wasn't really a problem. I knew that early on. You just needed to finish school and, you could get into finance. Um, at the time, I was trying to figure out if I was going to go to get my master's or work at the same time, whichever one came first. That and a couple of other reasons, but finance came first. Found a job at, didn't really like it, and then moved on to where I probably shouldn't name names.
I mean, I don't. I feel like, for valid reasons, sometimes we work in places and we don't like them. It doesn't mean that other people don't have good experiences there. So
Yeah, it wasn't even much about the firm. It just wasn't the banking I wanted to
yeah.
do. Yeah, and then I moved on to where I eventually did it, and yeah, that was it.
I love the fact that you found somebody who was already on this path, and the person was able to kind of like influence you and kind of show you the way. And also, you talked about working as a banker in Lagos while also deciding whether or not you wanted to apply for grad school. So at that time when you were considering whether you should work or not work, did you decide not to apply because you finally found the job, or did you realize like, hey, maybe I should chill a bit before I apply? I know that you told me you deferred your admission.
Yes,
and
I did.
So, all of that, what was the reason? Like when you finally decided this is the time, what were the things that made you realize that was the best time?
Okay. Good one. Before I even get into details of that, I think what people need to know is that, and we talked about this earlier today, a lot of things happen by chance. You can't exactly game any outcome. You can't do one thing to get a certain outcome. I mean, well, technically you could, but a lot of the times when we are over planning these things, we always forget that there are so many factors that could affect the outcome that are out of our control.
Yeah.
So, partly it was by my doing and what I knew I wanted to do, and there were parts of it that were really just luck or chance or whatever. I didn't go immediately because at the time, okay, so I always knew I wanted to go to get a master's out of the country. It was just a matter of what school to go to. I wanted to go to a really good school. And unlike some other people who might be lucky to have their parents pay for them, I wasn't one of those. They could support but not pay to go to Duke. Right? So they wanted me to go get my master's. Obviously, they wouldn't send me to Duke. I didn't want to settle for less at that time. So it was like, okay, if I don't get what I want, then I could also go work. There's a viable path there. Work and get an MBA. So at that point, it was like whichever one comes first. Fortunately, I got a job first, and I told them, okay, guys, you know what? I have a job. I'm going to do the job. I try this school thing when I can afford to help myself go to a great school. So that was where the going to work first came from. And I also knew that if you work, the experience would be valuable when you get to business school. So that was that. And, worked for a while and actually deferred by a year, like you said. At that point, that was also one of the parts where it was by chance. COVID happened. I got the admission. COVID happened. Everybody was, at home. I-20 wouldn't come on time. And I definitely didn't want to go to school where I couldn't have the benefit of the experience of meeting people, going to class, do everything online. So the school, thank God, gave an option for people who wanted to defer because of visa issues or whatever to defer. And I decided to defer for that reason. And that's how I ended up working an extra year before coming. So that one extra year wasn't my decision. But it was also one of the best because I just moved to a new unit, like I told you at the time. That was when I did a lot of the exposure I had to investment banking. It was a good year for the markets, for people who are in capital markets. I was a generalist, but I did work on capital market transactions. And capital market bankers at the time had a good run. So the market was good. So it kind of worked in my favor in that sense. Again, that's the part that's completely by chance. And it also helped me save more to come. So, yeah, a part of it was deciding to work. The later part was just COVID chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely, don't try to game life.
Don't. You can't. Two things. Don't try to game anything. Couldn't really have the high level targets or goals, but don't try and game every decision. Or say, okay, I'm going to do this so that I can get that. It's fine, but you always can't control the factors. So stay flexible and stay open. And people, I think it's important to have mentors. It really, really helped me along the line. That's one thing I should say, so that people don't feel like, oh, I had everything figured out. Or I was thinking, no, I just had people I could ask questions and help me think about things. And it's really important because you just don't want to make the same mistakes that could be avoided that people have made. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So, yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, you've given us like so much information, and I guess one thing that you were really passionate about when you were talking about is the fact that you really wanted to go back to school. And for a lot of people, going back to school is a lot of things. You didn't have to go to business school, you could have
Yeah.
gotten any other degree. So,
Yeah.
what was it about going to business school, especially in Duke, that was it for you, where you were like, this is something I really have to do?
Okay, a couple of parts to it. The first part is, remember how, talking to people, the finance guy, all of that got me exposed to finance. But somehow along the line, I started to realize that the passion wasn't just about finance. I just enjoyed business generally. I was interested in any other part of business that had nothing to do with finance, like operations, management, anything. I just liked business. That's all I knew at the time. So I always had that interest in business, and I decided going to business school would be great to help me learn about other parts that had nothing to do with finance, get exposure to maybe switch industries because I didn't plan to do, at that point, I knew I wasn't going to do banking for the long term because banking was not the goal anymore. It was just, learning business generally. And then, of course, startups in Nigeria started to be a thing. So I'm like, okay, there's more to do outside of finance, right? Let me go somewhere where I could get exposure to different industries or learn other things that I might not be considering in making the decision. Yeah, so that was how I knew business school was going to come. And yeah, I hope that answers.
It really does. And something else that you really talked about that somebody else on this podcast has also reiterated, and something that I have found to be true, is the role of mentors.
Yep.
So you talked about the fact that your cousin was your mentor, but for some people, they don't really have family that they can call mentors. So how would you advise someone to kind of find a mentor, especially like imagine if you were a young person in Nigeria right now, trying to kind of find a way in your career? How would you go about it?
Man, it's really difficult. It's a very difficult question because this is one of those parts where I think chance and luck just happens to me, right? I have never really had to recruit for a mentor, so it's
So like
quite
now I'm thinking.
yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know exactly how you would go about it, but I guess a very good place to start is try and even like be read as much as possible and be exposed first so you know what you like, the kind of
Yeah.
things you like. Maybe you like finance, maybe you like business, or whatever thing you like. And then from that point, I guess if you chase it along the line, you would always meet people who, in the process of chasing it, people who know it better than you, have been there longer in the process. And then I guess that's one of the best ways. So if you discover that you like tech, for instance, or something, then you're probably on LinkedIn or Twitter looking for people that are in that space to ask questions, I guess, or going somewhere to take a class in coding and then meeting people that code better than you or have more information than you. I guess that's one of the ways. But always be willing to meet people and get information, from especially from people who know more than you. It's so important. Not everybody can talk to people or meet random people. And I know that's
Yeah.
very challenging, but somehow you have to find the information.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I would also say that practice. I know that this sounds like I am our parents, but practice makes perfect. That's what they say,
Certainly.
right? Because I remember the first few times I met people, it was very awkward. I was like, oh my God, 30 minutes is such a long time. But I think the more you do it, the more you even realize what you really like. And it also kind of directs the questions that you ask people and the kind of people that you meet. So
Yeah. It's a good way to really
definitely.
just figure out what you like or learn to.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you never have the time to learn on your own, but just by meeting people, you pick up on it. And you never know where that knowledge could take you.
Okay. So now I want to ask you questions about your life here in the US.
Okay.
And and I think one of the fascinating things for me is that you were able to get a loan as a
Yeah.
Nigerian. And a lot of people who want to apply to grad school, it's like funding is such a huge deal. So if you don't have the money, it's like you can't go, especially if you're coming from Nigeria or other African countries. So how are you able to find this loan agency, and how are you, like, what factors did you consider in taking the loan? So for instance, for me, I had to kind of think about the fact that, okay, what kind of jobs will I get when I graduate? How much will they pay me? How will I be able to pay for it? So, did you have similar thoughts? And how were you able to finally decide, okay, yes, this is what I'm going to go for?
Oh, very good question. Honestly, this is a big part. I feel like for the loan, obtaining the loan is usually split between two things. First, people that know that you can take a loan, but are not just comfortable taking that kind of risk, and people that probably don't know. I think that for business, honestly, for some reason, I do think that people know about the loan, but it's probably more on those that don't want to take the risk, right? But again, there's I've also met people that actually didn't even know you could take a loan. So if you're that person that's what funding is the only reason why you've not made the decision to go to business school, then now you know you can get a loan to get to business school, right? The more important thing is probably coming to terms with taking the loan, that kind of risk, which is what you've asked. And then, the what you want to think about first is, like you said, obviously repayment. And so if it depends on the program. For me, it was easy to look for data to support the decision. My school actually has employment reports for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Every year they'll give employment reports of where the graduates from that year are working, how much they are earning, stuff like that. So you can, I don't know if all schools do this, but I know my school did, and you can find the data easily. They'll tell you 95% of the class got jobs within graduation and 6 months after, or between when school started and 6 months after school. On average, they're earning whatever 80K, 120. This is what the lowest person earns, this is what the highest person earns. All that data really supports the decision, especially for business schools now, to go to take the risk.
Yeah.
So you see where your repayment is coming from, in the sense that, unless something goes wrong, by the grace of God, you'll be part of the 90% of people that found jobs, right?
Yeah. Layo, when was the last time you went to church?
A couple months
Don't mind
ago
me, you
for
don't
fun,
have to
but before
answer.
that, I don't
I'm just
remember.
joking. It's because of how seriously you said by the grace of God.
I know. But if you believe in it, if you just look at the numbers, 90% is
Yeah.
a good probability. It's your only, or 95% or whatever the school has. It's a good enough probability for you to take that kind of risk, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is, every time I have to make difficult decisions, one of the things I do is to figure out the worst case scenario. Like, so, okay, if I have to go to business school at this point of my life, it's the kind of experience I have and all of that.
Yeah.
And I take this amount of loan and I don't have a job after, what's the worst that could happen? The absolute worst is I go back to Nigeria, right? And if you can find something to mitigate, or that you would do in the absolute worst case scenario, the next thing is, are you comfortable with that outcome?
Yeah.
If you are, at that point, if I can answer those two things, then I take the risk. So the worst case is I'll go back to Nigeria. If I had to go back to Nigeria, what would I do? Obviously, you look for a job, right? And then you now have to service USD loans earning in Naira. That worst case scenario may not be something that anybody wants to live with. But I asked, the next question was, can I live with that outcome? And by the time I weigh it against the experience of coming to a new country, meeting people from all over the world, going to this
Yeah.
amazing school, at that point I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm comfortable with that outcome. It will be hard. It will be definitely really hard, but getting that experience is rewarding enough for me to
Yeah.
do. And I was fine with that outcome. Like, okay, there was nothing to think about anymore after that point, right? I think also, but I consider the fact that because I had worked, this is one part people don't think about. Because I had worked in Nigeria, and the experience I had, I could find a new job in Lagos. You could leverage relationships that I've built, over time, and find a new job.
And you
if I
could
had
even
to go
find
back.
something better.
Oh, fine, and you definitely would even find something better, because now you have the Duke experience and all of that. You just need to bubble your way through, and. So I was fine with the outcome. So that the major thing there, advice I guess I'm giving people from this story, is just the framework to think about it. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? If you can find a solution to it, then there's no reason to worry about the risk. Some people try. I find that frameworks for thinking really help.
I was going to ask you about this too.
Yeah, it really, really helps. I learned about this is frameworks for thinking is regret minimization. I call this. Like, if I don't make this decision, it's in 10 years or 80 years or whatever, I don't remember. Would I regret
Yeah.
not making it? If it's yes, then do it. If it's no,
Okay.
then don't do it.
Okay.
Easy. You
I
don't
have
to think
never
too much.
actually thought about that.
Yeah.
I think it takes a high level of like being adventurous to
100%.
take a loan and move to a new country.
100%.
But I think another really crazy thing you did was buying a car from an absolute stranger.
Yep.
So when you came to the US, a lot of people, like when I came to the US, I think my first problem was, oh, more, what will I eat? So like, how did you think of the fact that, hey, I need a car and even find where to get the car? And I know you shared this with me, but I would really appreciate if you also share it with people.
Sure.
What did you, you told me that you had to take the car for a drive. So what were you also looking out for in the car? Like if someone were to come to the US and they're just trying to get a car, like not very expensive, just students, what would you advise?
Yeah, good question. First things first, I think it depends on where your school is and the kind of city you live in. You may or may not need a car, right? But if you're also like me that likes to move around a lot, you just wake up in the middle of the night and you want to go somewhere and you don't want any hindrance, you should buy a car. If you like to do road trips, which I knew I liked, you should get a car. But in terms of the US has a very active second-hand car market.
Yeah.
So getting a car, actually Lagos does as well, I think. But yeah, the US definitely does. So getting a car is not even hard at all, and it's even better. You could sell it off for something not much of a discount from what you buy it from. But in recent times, the car market has even been hot, right?
Like hot that you can buy
Hot in
real
the US,
cheap,
yeah.
or that you
No,
can
hot
sell.
that like, is getting more expensive. So if you have
Ooh.
a second-hand car to sell, that's probably a good time.
Like, do you want to sell your car?
I mean, it depends on what you're talking. Let's talk in the money. You guys, I like business. This is what I'm saying. I had to interrupt my story because the baby was talking about business.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm interrupting.
No, please, it's business. Anyway, so I found the car from a student that was graduating from my school already. I just went on Facebook Marketplace, and found the car. How I knew I needed the car was really from talking to people, current and past students of the school, and in conversations, just learning about the school, what to do. Somebody asked me, "Are you getting a car?" Like I didn't plan to. I'm like, the Niger sense. Now, how will I be in school and be driving car? I went to read book. Which one is car again? The guy was like, "No, dude, don't think about it like that. For that city, because of how wide it is, you might need a car to get around.
Yeah.
Also, if you like to travel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, I'll consider it." And I considered it in my planning. Came Facebook Marketplace, found a former student that wanted to sell his car, and I connected with him in the US. When I went to this where school was, met up with him to test drive the car, and he seemed fine to me. I picked it up. In terms of what I looked out for when I was test driving it was just like the same basic things you look out for if you're buying a car. You're not doing any comprehensive assessment, like let's drive you around, make sure there's no weird thing sounding anywhere. Press the back of the car to check the shock. Is the brake working? Is it making noise? How's the gear? Just basic things. Steering is turning fine. Just normal Lagos random check that you just do. And that was it. I didn't give it to a mechanic for any comprehensive assessment because obviously that's expensive. But I guess I never really, until you asked me, I didn't think about the fact that that was a serious gamble.
Yeah,
because the
it
car could have
was.
given me a headache.
It could have.
But I wasn't thinking about that at the time.
So I know somebody, in fact, I will not because I realized that it might be brand slander, so I will just keep it moving. But somebody I know has had a very bad experience with cars, and it turns out that that's a normal thing with that model. So it's like, I have to ask all the questions and Google and ask like the ancestors.
Buying second-hand cars, honestly, is but I mean that's how it has always been. I know a guy that bought a car with a loan and gave him problems in Lagos for like almost the first year.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question for you that's very related to acquiring property in the US, and it's about credit scores. Because like I feel like everywhere you go, it's haunting you. It's that shadow that never leaves.
Definitely.
So how have you been able to like build your credit score, and how have you been able to navigate? Because I know like when you come, it's not like you don't have it automatically.
Yeah.
You have to apply. Do you remember the application process? Do you remember what you did? And do you remember what you have been doing over the months to keep your credit score?
Good.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so the simple thing I did was, and this is where like talking to people is important. My mentor actually graduated from Duke as well, so that definitely helped in terms of.
Is that your family school?
I know, right? I think that's the plan, really.
For real? That's really cool.
That's a family school. but also this is where like talking to people is important. Not just even mentors, like people that were. If you're going to a new place, you should talk to people that have been there, that have graduated, ask questions, and you may not know all the questions to ask, but in conversations, things could come up that you just learn about. And so, actually, one of the things I did when I was in school was to become an admissions ambassador, just because I realized that there's so much information that I just had based off of asking people, and just because my cousin, my mentor went to school here,
Yeah.
that a lot of people I may not have had. So I'm like, let me take this chance and really give people info. So what I did was apply for a credit card to start with. People are always afraid of debt, but after the kind of loan I've taken, I don't see not afraid anymore. So I took a credit card, and really that was it. Started using it. Took one early enough, like almost as I'm getting SIM card, I was going to the bank to go and look for a credit card. I did find later that I might have been lucky. That's why I think people should know that a lot of things that we realized in the US, just like Nigeria, Lagos, are perception driven.
Yeah.
It's very important to know this. There are things that may look like, oh, you won't be able to get, but just like Lagos, if you ask and push your way, something will come out. Even though they won't tell you that.
Yes, it's possible.
For instance, you can get a extra scholarship.
Yeah, definitely.
But they will not advise that one, advertise that one. You have to ask or push questions, So maybe because I had someone who had graduated from Duke with me who was working, blah blah blah. Maybe it was easier to get a credit card, but I heard that for internationals it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, they are like Discover, which is where I got my student loan from, by the way. Discover actually gives credit cards.
I didn't even know that.
This process is less stressful. So you can reach out to them. I know people that did and got credit cards from there, and you start building you use it. I use it for any basic grocery, gas, any gas.
That's another question.
What?
So like the first time I got a credit card, and now nobody is allowed to drag me with this ever.
Yeah.
But I don't know why the person who explained it to me made it seem like every month they give you, like, let's say you have a credit cap of $200. So every month they give you $200, and you just have to use it, and the next month they'll give you $200. And I'm like, why are they giving you free money? So like, can you advise people about the need to pay it off? Because I know that you need to pay it off at a specific date.
Correct.
If not, your score will really start plummeting.
Correct.
So
how
does that work? When you say you go grocery shopping with it?
Yeah, so there are two important dates. You can use it just the way you use your debit card. Anything you like. Subject to the limit you have. There's some kind of things people have advised not to use credit card for, like paying rent. I never really looked this up, but it was just advice.
Why?
Paying rent, because you don't want to give the impression that you are not making enough to pay rent of where you live, that could actually affect your credit score. Someone told me this, but I never looked it up. Since then, I just didn't use it for like things that you're supposed to be earning enough money to be able to pay for.
Yeah.
But if it's like groceries and those kind of, it's fine. But there are two dates. The first one is, I think they call it statement date, and the other one is maybe repayment date or something. One comes before the other. That first date is the minimum time you have to make enough payments to guarantee that you can use the credit card for another cycle. You don't need to pay everything.
Yeah.
Let's say your limit is 200 and you've used 100. It might be that at that date you need to pay at least minimum of maybe 50 or whatever to be able to use the card for another cycle. Past the second date, whatever balance you have left on the card will become like your credit card balance. You take that into the new cycle. Say you have $50 there, then you have $50 on the new cycle, and then you have 150 to use if you have a 200 limit.
Yeah.
That $50 that you've carried over is what you'll be charged interest on.
Oh, okay.
So the hack is make sure that by the minimum repayment date, you meet the minimum repayment that you are supposed to meet. But if you want to avoid interest and still maintain a good credit score, my own strategy was, before the statement date, I cleared my entire balance.
Yeah.
And so I don't get interest and my credit score is high. Don't spend what you don't have.
Another thing I found out, and I don't know if it's the same for you or if it's just me, is that when you make payments with your credit card over the weekend, it doesn't like post immediately. Does that happen to you? Does that happen to you?
I don't
do
know.
You feel that they do that intentionally? So I noticed that it happens mostly during the weekend because when I pay for something during the weekday, it posts immediately and I'm able to remove the money from my other account. But when I do it over the weekend. I feel like they just hold it. And then, I don't know if it's me being paranoid, but I feel like banks do that thing intentionally.
It's possible.
Is there like a mechanism behind it in the banking world where you guys try to charge extra interest just because?
This question is a
Conspiracy.
trap.
Okay, let's continue talking about grad school things. And okay.
But anyway, the best answer I can give on that is what I do is, again, not everybody has to do this, but it might be a stressful thing. But for me, I track my spending very closely. I do this from time to time. So at any point, I know if I'm about to hit my limit or not. So I'm never really caught unawares. I track my spending.
That's very honestly. I feel like as an international student, you really have to track your spending. If not,
I have Excel spreadsheets and stuff. Sheets.
Okay, no, I don't think I started one, but I never. I think I started it and it wasn't balancing. Like credit and debit were not balancing. I'm like,
well, I mean, I had this for a long time, even from Lagos. I've always been doing this for a while.
What's on your spreadsheet? Like, if someone were to if someone was to start keeping track of their spending, especially for grad school, what would you tell them? What would you tell them to keep track of? And through your experience of tracking your spending, what would you say something that you have found out that this is something that I'm spending so much on that I can actually cut down on, and as time has gone by, you've kind of adjusted.
Let me think for a second. I don't think that might be something I have, because the first thing I did was to set a budget before school probably even started. So I had what you can call like a yearly budget for the entire school year, plus extra 2 or 3 months in case whatever happens, you don't have a job, whatever. This is how much I'm going to spend on this. Then after that, I have like a monthly budget. As part of the yearly budget, monthly spending is inside part of the things I expect to spend for the year. Monthly spending in a month times 12. Plus other things, say maybe you make mistake, you hit somebody's car, you need to pay for the car, plus all the traveling I intended to do.
Yeah.
Plus, buying the car, everything was in the yearly budget. And then I had monthly budget. So it was so airtight that I don't think there's anything that I spend money on now that I could avoid.
Okay.
My spending, I try to be very prudent so I can have money for the things I like doing.
And do you mind if we ask you what a good budget? So if someone is coming from Nigeria or... Tell us.
I've just put him now much of a terrorist.
Layo. This is the impression you want them to have.
Budget for a car. It depends on what you want. At the time, I think I had a budget, and it didn't take very long for me to realize that was a bit ridiculous, because I couldn't find anything. I found stuff, but it would be things that would not give me problem down the line. So I think a healthy place to start from is like 5K.
Oh my lord!
For something that will not give you a headache, 5K.
I said, "Oh my lord," on their behalf.
I know, but again, it's planning.
But then you've also had it for a long time, and I know you have driven it to a lot of places. So I can actually confirm that was good money spent.
But again, it's planning. So here's the context that is very important for me to put. First off, it helps to have a yearly budget before you start.
Yeah.
Second, different people have what they like.
Yeah.
Some people, like to live in fancy apartments, which I do too. But because it wasn't my priority for the school period, I'm like, I'd rather have a car than live in a nice place that is near school or whatever. I'd rather have a car that I can drive to Florida if I feel like doing. So I cut down budgets in certain places. I bought basic furniture, something that, because at the end at school probably I don't have to start worrying about who am I going to sell it to, what am I going to do I need storage? If I can't find where to dash, I throw it away. Simple. Like it was that basic.
Yeah.
So I could save money for the car. So it's not like people should not be thinking that it's just your own planning.
Okay. So definitely one advice you'd give people is, know what matters to you and what doesn't matter to you. And you can cut down on what does not matter and give to what matters.
Exactly.
Like you said, I'm the apartment person. I want to be able to just stay in my house and have a good time with myself. But then I also like traveling. So it's like, I don't know.
It's neither here. You have to pick one. I love good
I think I picked the apartment already.
Yeah. You did in your own case, which is not bad, right? It just depends on what you like. Those guys,
I
fancy apartments here
travel
are.
with Layo on his Instagram. That's where I do all my traveling. Okay. And oh my God, thank you for talking. I mean, I was the one who talked about traveling, but it's good. You actually talked about it when you talked about the things that you like. And I know that's something that a lot of international students consider is, oh my God, like where do I start from if I want to travel? For some people, it's the fact that after first year, they have to find internships. For some people, it's the fact that they don't even know if they can afford it. For others, it's the fact like, oh my God, where do I get the visa from? So how have you been able to navigate this? Because I saw you the other day in Puerto Rico.
Okay. So everywhere I've traveled to so far, I didn't need a visa for. I
Okay.
should say it was mostly within the states, and then for Puerto Rico, you actually don't need a visa to enter
For real?
because
As
it's
in
a US.
as a Nigerian?
No, yeah, it's an international student, I think, because it's a US. How do they call that thing? US territory. So I think if you already have a visa to be in the US, then you can enter. So I didn't need a visa. I just literally flew there. Boom. Yeah. So right now I'm planning, like I'm trying to go to Europe. So now is when I'm facing all the visa wala, which I guess if everything you need to do in terms of documentation you can find on the website or online of the country you need to go to. But being a student helps. So actually, what I would advise people to do is, because I didn't quite do this well, or summer people will probably be interning. Try and target your traveling abroad if you want to for spring, so that in the summer you can. That's on your final year. In the summer, you can just do more within the US because the summer period when you're graduating is when you're trying to get your OPT. If you're lucky and somebody's filing H1 before you, you can't really leave the country until you have it. There's all sorts of rules around what you can do and whatnot. So it's best to travel in the spring out of the country.
Okay.
And, maybe in the summer you can do Puerto Rico. But for Puerto Rico, lots of students, American students, go there for spring break. So if you want to meet people from other schools, it's a good time to go.
Okay. What's the budget for going to Puerto Rico?
Let me try to see how much did I spend. So the thing is, the best thing to do is whenever traveling you want to do, go in groups so you can save money. That's what I do. Anything I can drive to, I drive to, so I don't fly.
I can again confirm this. I'm surprised you did not drive to Puerto Rico.
You see what I mean when I say she's a terrorist now.
You're always driving everywhere.
Yeah, so anything. Oh, thank God for that car, Jesus.
Yeah, for real, honestly.
Yeah, anything I could flights, because I'm also a Lagos boy, so I'm looking at the numbers very closely. You don't overspend. So if you go in groups, you save money. I don't remember exactly how much I spent for Puerto Rico, but when I calculated what after splitting everything, it was definitely went under 1,000.
Oh my, that's really cool.
It was under 1,000, definitely.
Including the flight ticket.
Yeah.
And the accommodation.
Yep.
Feeding.
Yep.
Ooh, that's cool.
So if you go in groups, best thing to do.
Okay, so first things first, make friends.
Make
guys.
friends.
Then go in groups and save costs.
And if you like to travel a lot, buy a car so that whatever you don't need to fly to, you drive.
And a durable car, do
durable
not
one.
cut corners and try to get a car. Okay, so now we are winding down because I know that we said we're not going to make this long.
Yeah.
We're trying something new. But you talked about something that was very interesting. When you talked about, you didn't use the word mindset, but it was something close to mindset. So one thing I had started to do in, I think it was episode 3, and then I forgot, was I believe a lot that mindsets help us go through phases or stages or whatever. And when you mentioned it, I realized that you might also be like that. So what mindset would you say has helped you through this phase? Because I know that there have been times when you were just alone in this grad school journey and you were like, why did I leave my job in Lagos and come to America? So what mindset has kind of helped you get through thinking like this and kept you kind of resilient?
Let me see. Let me think for a second. I think 2 things I'll say. Oh, you have all these hard, deep questions. Honestly, this will be such
Don't
a
worry,
good
my next
podcast
question is Naira Marley.
No, Don't be
You
like
don't.
that. I was giving you compliments. It's a compliment.
Oh,
You're such a
thank
good
you.
podcaster. Like, you ask very engaging conversation, driving question.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys retweet, repost, do everything.
Hey.
I think two key things. First thing is I'm generally a very positive person, so I think that helps because there's hardly any situation you would ever be in that doesn't have pros and cons. Um, so I just try to focus on all the good things I'm getting from that experience, and this is where not trying to game life comes from because you go to business school, you'll be great, skin con, you plan everything you want to do, over plan, and what I've found about people that overplan things is when one thing goes wrong or doesn't go the way you plan, is enough to destabilize you for a
Yeah.
year, change your opinion about the entire experience. I think that's the wrong way to look at things. Because again, like I said, there's so many factors that will never be in your control. But the fundamental thing that you're going to get from that program is still there. So you should know what you want to get from it. And as long as that exists, just stay positive. Because even if you were in Nigeria, fine, I could have been in Nigeria doing my job, but what if they fired me?
There was a big recession. I mean,
There
they're firing
was. They were
people.
firing people
Yeah.
during COVID, right? What if I was one of the people they fired? Like, you can say, oh, it would have been better if I was doing that, but you don't have
Yeah.
enough information
That's
to really
true.
consider that a fact. So be happy where you are, focus on the positives and keep moving. And second thing is you should realize that Abel and I were talking about investments earlier today. And I know you've heard this 1 million times, but the best investment you can make is in yourself.
Yeah.
Every other thing you want to gain in life, coming to business school, taking the kind of loan that I took is an investment. Because the doors, if you just look at the positive side, the doors it opens in terms of the kind of jobs you could get, the kind of people you could meet, the kind of things you could learn that you never knew before. You don't know where that will become useful. There are certain people, even Nigerians, that if I was in Lagos, I never would have been able to meet them.
Yeah.
If I talk to them, they
That's
look at
true.
me like, who is this one
Honestly,
trying
it's
to talk to
actually
me?
true.
Right. But I met them in grad school and it looks like everybody is the same and they're happy to talk to me. And then I say, I like this guy. This
Feel
guy is
very
actually
free.
cool. I like this guy. He's good, he's a smart guy. But for in Lagos, they won't speak to you.
Yeah.
Right. There's just so many little things to be grateful for. You're investing in yourself and just be positive, man. Everything will be fine.
Okay, so now Layo has dropped 3 hot takes for us. Assuming I was a producer now, I would have hopped on it. So the first thing he said, the very first thing that actually opened up this mindset conversation is regret. You talked about the fact that if you regret not taking the action in 8 years' time, take it. So that was very important. I have actually never thought about that. And then the second thing you talked about was like positivity. I really agree that happy things and sad things coexist. I feel like they coexist more often than we even care to admit. And they can, and do not dwell on the sad things. I know it's very hard, and this is a lesson for myself also.
The way you put it, I love it. Happy things and sad things coexist.
It's true because
I wish I
sometimes
thought of that. I
you're
want to
so
tell the
happy.
story I said.
Now I'm having a brain freeze moment and I can't remember the third thing.
Oh, fine. The third one was, I think, as we were saying that whatever you're investing in yourself.
Oh yes, about investing in yourself. It's so true. Like there are so many things and so many people. Even without the people, I think there's so many opportunities you would never have realized existed.
So many.
Even the things that you can ask for as a person, can I do this? You would never have thought, hey, I can do this. Okay, so now I have two last questions for you, and I'll just ask the two of them together. Okay, so the first one is, if you could give Layo from 2 years ago a random advice, like you see yourself 2 years ago and you're like, oh my guy, you should definitely do this, what would it be? That's the second to last question. And the last question, I feel you're going to roll your eyes. And I want you to remember that you don't have to answer, and you don't really, for real, you don't have to answer it. But how have you found navigating love in graduate school? Because I feel like the dating scene in the US is quite different from what we know in Nigeria. Or maybe that's me projecting. So how have you navigated it? And I know these two questions are very unrelated, but I don't want to add more questions because then we will now really do that in where it's very long.
Yeah, okay. And honestly, guys, do you know the funny thing? If we were to really do a podcast to talk about this thing, it could be 2 days long. Because think about it. I've been here since yesterday, and everything we've talked about.
It's true. We just talked about it right now. But Layo, I feel like you You have such an interesting story, and forget I'm always teasing you. No, forget I'm always. I do it because I don't want you to be feeling yourself. Every day, feeling
Now,
yourself.
wow. Why do people always do this to me?
But you have such an interesting story, and I love how adventurous you are. And I am a huge fan of high life music, and I love
Ooh.
Ono Gonabo. He's
Oh.
an Igbo musician,
Okay.
and he said that Oyo Jade Wetego, meaning like someone who's afraid doesn't make money. And I feel like it just translates to everything in life. You can't, if you're afraid, you will never, like, you would never make new experiences. You would never meet new people. So I love that you're very adventurous. And I don't mean any of the yabs I yab you.
Look at that. Look at that. You guys, the village boss here, she says,
I
her eyes are
beg
teary.
I will go back to format. Okay. Tell us.
Okay, in
tell
the
us.
spirit of summarizing people's things in one sentence, I got one, so a billet now one square, so you don't think that you're good at summarizing. Everything she just said, the Igbo thing, high risk, high reward.
It's true. Okay.
Drops microphone.
Okay, that was a good one. Okay.
Okay, then what was the question again?
About love.
Love, and then the first one, 2 years ago, advice.
Yeah, what would you advise? Little life.
From my own experience,
Yeah.
the advice I had given myself 2 years ago, I think I took it, was to come to business school.
Okay.
That's probably like the biggest thing I was battling with at the time. So yeah, coming to business school. Navigating love. I honestly don't know if it is completely different from the way you navigate love in anywhere you are in a normal situation. I think the same things kind of apply.
You were on Tinder in Lagos.
Okay, no, I wasn't. So guys, let's talk about this thing.
I'm like,
I tried it for a while. It never worked for me. I deleted it.
oh, for real?
Because I never told you.
No, you didn't.
Okay. I did. Funny enough, I did meet somebody an American that knows so much about Nigerian culture, the food.
For real?
She was literally sending me pictures of her for egusi. I kid you not. She had been to Nigeria. She knew every bloody thing.
How?
I was shocked.
Oh my god.
I was shocked. Anyway, yeah, I tried that because I actually had this fear of meeting people. You know, the way you meet people in Lagos is different from here. It's either at work. If it's not work, randomly you can go to a bar.
You mean it?
Yeah.
I thought you said it's not different.
Okay, so sorry about that. It is kind of different. It is kind of different. Like, as a Lagos boy, you can go to a restaurant, for instance, or a bar or whatever, and you see somebody you like and just go and talk to her. If she doesn't want to talk to you, you carry your bag and go. That's why I tried Tinder. Maybe I won't say it didn't completely work, but because I know I've actually heard of very good love stories from this program.
Yeah.
My area from Bumble and all these dating sites. But at some point, maybe I just got tired, did it, and then I did now physically, properly meet someone that was, and talking, and we've been talking, while the process. But
okay, you guys can't see me, but I'm winking at Layo.
But yeah, aside of that, honestly, I don't think there's anything I could add. Just be yourself, hang out with people. If you like somebody, do it. If not, move.
Yeah, I would say that I was also one of the Tinder people.
Yeah.
But I would say ultimately it depends on what works for you.
Exactly.
Do what makes you comfortable.
Yep. I've heard really good love stories from Tinder, guys.
Yeah.
So please do try it. Maybe I was the unlucky one. Please do try it.
Okay. So the funny thing, when you were talking, I was like, oh my god, I have one last question. But now I can't remember.
Ooh, what was it about? Are you sure it's not the ones I just answered?
No. And I know this is like I said I had only 2 questions, but this is the last one for real. Like we also talked a lot about your love for podcasts, which I really love podcasts too. And I think that people think that people who listen to podcasts, we are a little off.
No, I don't know what's wrong with you.
So what would you say are like podcasts that people can listen to? What podcasts have changed the way you think?
Damn. Maybe that's coming.
I'm sorry. I said I was going to ask, who is your favorite musician and why is it Naira Marley?
Stop now.
For real, his favorite musician is Naira Marley. That was one of the things we bonded on.
Don't listen to her. Which one is favorite? But I really do like the music. I can't lie.
Corporate Malian.
I mean, yes, so we're one of them. Say what you will.
Okay, so tell us.
That has changed. Okay, so I wouldn't, not more of changing how I think, but picking useful lessons from.
Yeah.
And at least one of my favorite podcasts really is Business Wars.
Okay.
So they basically just talk about some of the craziest rivalries. Coke, Pepsi,
That's crazy.
Uber, Lyft.
Did you send it to me too?
Oh, I should send
I'll
it.
send.
I should
I'll look
send
at it now.
Business Wars. I'm doing Amazon and Walmart now, which is perfect because I'm actually reading the Amazon book right now. So
Ooh.
I was enjoying it. I'm like, okay, look for Amazon podcast. Everything has just been, now yeah, it's really good. And they have so
Yeah,
many.
I'm just
so
looking
many.
at it now.
Even Boeing, Airbus.
I'm even seeing this one
Jeez.
between like the ice cream giants.
Yep, look at that.
I didn't
Oh, Ben
know.
and Jerry. See, look at
Yeah.
that. They have so many really good podcasts there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Layo, we're about to enter 1 hour. Layo, it was so nice having you. When we were thinking about this podcast, you said we
Yeah.
were going to make it very short, and now somehow we have talked for 56 minutes.
It was shocking when you told me these things last hour. I'm like, how
And you
does
also
that
said
sound?
you don't do podcasts. And yes, you
Yes.
said that 1 hour was too long.
I didn't even know.
So I just want
Look
to
at
say
that.
thank you. Like, thank you so much for taking your time. I know that I jumped on you and asked you if you could please be on this podcast. So I really appreciate
No,
it.
and I'm happy I came.
Thank you.
I'm happy I came. I'm happy I came to Maryland this period. I'm happy to see you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Bye, guys.